acknowledging the success for myself, because so many times that acknowledgement came with a complete regression. I don't congratulate myself with pizza, but maybe I congratulate myself with a walk outside, because walking's not such a chore that it used to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not my favorite thing to do. I still would rather sit and watch TV and eat pizza than go for a walk. But maybe that's the way I celebrate this success. Paige Dorian Productions, welcome to the American Glutton Podcast.
Thank you so much, Ethan Suplee. I feel like these chats that I basically get to ask you a question for everyone to hear are some of my favorite things, because I get this one-on-one, man.
Yeah, they're fun to do.
It's super great. Have you been?
I've been good. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Just doing all the things.
All the things. We're on the opposite coasts, and somehow we can have this conversation and record it and send it out into the universe.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of conversation, I'd like to ask you a question.
What's your question today?
So a few people have written in recently, actually, talking about sort of similar things, I think, with the holidays coming up and maybe the stress that family can bring, or so on and so forth. It just brought up this question of stress, right? And so just wondering if you can talk about or share how you've been able to maintain this weight loss, this exercise, this healthy lifestyle during stressful times, like a personal challenge. Let's not ever forget the pandemic, like all of these kinds of things. When something major is going on in life, how have you done it? Because you've done it now for a while.
Yeah. Okay. So, for the longest time, I used food to make me feel better in the present, in the immediate. So right now. And I think there was the feeling that I could kick down the road discomfort through eating right now, any discomfort I would experience. So I'm not a super comfortable person just in general. Physically, I'm uncomfortable most of the time. Mentally, I'm uncomfortable a lot of the time. And food always comforted me and alleviated stress or made me feel better, just more comfortable. So often I would find that the need to postpone discomfort was something I was looking to do with food. But I'd also find that the discomfort that I was kicking down the road would often be far greater than the discomfort that I was kicking down the road would often be, when I experienced it, far greater than the discomfort I was trying to avoid. So when I finally started doing drugs and alcohol, it got to the point where I just had to constantly be on drugs in order to avoid the discomfort of not being on drugs, which was all in the pursuit of avoiding the discomfort I felt with myself at all times. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
The way I'm saying that?
Yeah.
So the further and further I kicked that down the road, the more and more that discomfort accumulated, to the point where not being on drugs didn't just mean I'd have to sit within my own body, but I'd also have to experience withdrawal. So when I'm stressed out, the stress that I'm trying to avoid through food also accumulates and is worse when I'm pushing it further away. Whereas if I just examine the stress or whatever discomfort I'm feeling in the now or in the moment and go this sucks, but it is what it is, and I'm going to get through this now and not kick it down the road, then it's always less,
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking about like the stress of the holidays and wanting to alleviate that, I just think I just would make it more general with all things stressful, where I'm now much more interested in, if I'm feeling uncomfortable within myself, I'd rather really just allow that discomfort to kind of wash all over me and consume me right now, because I know I'm going to get through that discomfort. I know that that uncomfortable state isn't going to be permanent. There will be a moment where I go like, okay, I'm not feeling that anymore, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or an awkward situation. I would rather just have that now and get it over with. So like going to the gym is a good example of this. Going to the gym is about being uncomfortable. There's no part of it where I'm just like, yes, this is all fun. It's not fun for me. It's work. It's uncomfortable. The point for me is to go and make myself uncomfortable. I almost think about like, I don't know if I buy any of the, scientific data or benefits of cold plunges, but what I do buy is that I don't want to do it. And then I do it. And then I feel better, and that feeling better is like, maybe it's just that I've put myself in a really uncomfortable state, and then that state is over and my body is rewarding me and my brain is rewarding me and going like, thank God you escaped death by getting out of the cold water. Here's a rush of dopamine or serotonin or endorphins, and we're rewarding you for taking yourself out of that position, which was going to kill you if you stayed in it, right? You're going to get hypothermic and eventually die. So we're sending all these physical signals of discomfort to say like, don't stay in this state. And then I'm pushing through that as long as I possibly can. And then I'm getting out and going like, oh, now I feel wonderful. And it's kind of the same thing with the gym. There is something that I find beneficial about doing something difficult that I don't necessarily want to do. And it just makes me feel better. And that could go for like, some advertising catches my eye, some food advertising, or, I think part of their marketing is wonderful exhaust systems in the kitchen of fast food restaurants that blow the smell of French fries and grilling cheeseburgers out into the immediately surrounding area. And that enters my body through my nose and makes me recall 1,000 times I ate something like that. And the feeling of, filling the void within me that makes me feel comforted, that feeling also is a good feeling. But that feeling of goodness results in an ultimate feeling of badness, right? Because I either gain weight or I eat so much I feel sick to my stomach and I regret it. And pushing through the feeling of, oh my God, that smells so good, I want to eat that, and going like, no, I'm not going to, simply because it's difficult and because I know I'll feel better if I don't. And then getting to the point where I no longer am having that urge, and then I feel better,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the trade-off of the idea of immediate satisfaction with prolonged or delayed satisfaction being ultimately more worthwhile to me.
Well, yeah, but can we acknowledge, but can we acknowledge how hard that can be for people sometimes, myself included? The thing of like, in that moment, like, is there something you say to yourself? Is there something you remind yourself of when you have an urge to let the stress or the situation or the whatever, change your habit, your plan, your perspective? You know what I mean? Like when you have that urge, like, man, it'd be real nice to just eat that extra piece of pizza, or it'd be really nice to not go to the gym today. I'm tired, or, whatever, like, or, oh my God, this person's stressing me out. I'd like to be comforted by this food. Like, what do you do? How do you do it?
So the biggest thing I think is setting the playing field in such a way that I can succeed, right? So if I was staying in the cold plunge so long that I was getting frostbite, this is not something I'm going to win at long term. This is not something that's going to keep producing. If it was costing me fingers and toes, this is not a good trade-off, right? If I'm doing a diet that's so severe that I'm so calorically restricted that long term it's going to result in my death, this is not something I'm going to succeed at long term. If my exercise regimen is so difficult that it's going to result in, actual like nervous system fatigue or injuries, or actual total exhaustion, this is not something I'm going to succeed at. So number one is like, what can I really be successful at? If I'm not on a diet that's so severe and so restrictive for so long, see, I think people get diet fatigue. And, if you're doing some diet where you're like, first of all, the diets that was like, when I needed to lose 300 pounds and I at first wanted to do that all in one shot, right? That is a serious calorie restriction. Like I had to go into very low calories because, as we know, the way I diet now, there's going to be a point where I'm not in a deep enough deficit to continue to produce results forever. I'm going to get to the point where that's just maintenance numbers now. You know what I mean? From 300 to 250, from 500 pounds to 250. If you wanted to do that in one shot, you're going to have to go into a very, very, very deep caloric deficit. Just not eating bread or doing keto and not actually lowering your total food intake is probably not going to get you to your ideal weight if you're starting at 500 pounds. And so what I discovered later on was like the thing that worked for me was breaking up those segments with maintenance periods. That sets a playing field where there's not this endless time period that I'm going to be so hungry that the call of a Big Mac is going to, smelling that or seeing a good advertisement is going to haunt me all day. If I'm in a really deep calorie deficit and I'm really having like food dreams, which I've experienced, I don't know if you've experienced that, but when I'm dieting really restrictive for a long time, it becomes like you can't think about anything else. And that's your body literally going, we're starving. If you do this forever, you're going to die. So now we're just going to send you fucking food signals all the time. There's hormones that cause this. You're constantly feeling hungry. You're lightheaded when you stand up. And then you're going to get your gas and you're like, but there's snacks right there that would end all of this kind of suffering. And I just think you break at a certain point, right? Yeah. But if you set the playing field in such a way where it's like, it's not too deep, I'm not getting lightheaded every time I stand up, the diet isn't so severe, and the actual restrictive portion is just for a couple of months, and then I'm taking a break. When I'm on a diet break, I still think about Big Macs, but they don't have the same kind of power that they did when I'm severely calorically restricted.
Yeah.
When I wake up and don't want to go to the gym, I know that the gym isn't going to hurt me. I know that I'm not going to be so fatigued that I can't do anything for the rest of the day. And I can get myself to go do that because it's not so hard. I think that's the problem with a lot of the way I dieted for the longest time was I wanted everything right now. I wanted to have the body I want right now, today or tomorrow. I'll do anything today to have the result tomorrow. And now it's like, oh, that never produced the result I was happy with. And those results were intangible. They were fleeting. They were ethereal. They disappeared immediately. It was like gossamer or something. You know what I mean? Like, can I actually touch this thing and hold it and own it and make it mine? I couldn't. So that anxiousness for immediacy, I've had to get rid of. And that's not easy. That's not like innate. I don't just feel, it's one of these things where like sometimes, you know, I lived in LA for the longest time, and I would have reactions. And I only say that because LA, you have to drive everywhere. Nobody walks in LA. There's been songs written about this. And, you know, we're in cars, and then we also have terrible traffic, and there's rush hour, and there's people who drive like assholes. And, you know, I react to people who are assholes. I don't react well. I can turn into an asshole myself. And then I go like, what does that benefit me? Does flipping that guy off or tailgating him benefit me in any way? Or does it actually just kind of perpetuate the problem that I'm trying to avoid?
Yeah.
Knowing that my behavior is contributing to the problem, and what would I want? I would want to have a guy be an asshole in a car and me go like, well, that guy's an asshole. I don't want to react to him being an asshole and become an asshole and then create an even bigger problem. But I still feel it. You know what I mean? So there's a difference between knowing something is true and still having emotional reactions to it, right? Like, I don't want to have an emotional reaction to that asshole, but I do. I want to flip him off. I want to yell at him. And God forbid my kids are in the car and he endangered their lives, and now I have to chase him down, and now I want to beat him up. And it's like, what benefit is that to me? None of that is a benefit. So I don't want to behave that way, but I still emotionally feel it. And I have to kind of keep myself in check and go like, that reaction is irrational. You know, that reaction isn't going to produce what you want it to produce. So take a deep breath, get through this moment where you're feeling a certain way, and get to the point where you can behave the way you want to be behaving.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the take a deep breath and the sort of like look ahead 5 minutes, you know, like how you're going to feel if you do that, if you succumb to the urge to beat the guy up in the car, or if you succumb to the urge to eat the pizza or the whatever, the taking a minute is, that's, I guess, I just want to say like that is sometimes difficult. I suppose those of us that have gotten ourselves into positions where we're unhappy with our weight and our body, we've succumbed too many times to those urges, right?
Well, and then the problem with, I found for me with failing on a diet, either not getting to where I'd wanted to get, or eventually packing it all in and giving up, is I didn't set a realistic, you know, I didn't give myself a realistic playing field that I could be successful at. So it's very hard. You know, this is one of those things where it's like, being a sober person, I just don't believe, it's very difficult to give somebody the realization that they need to be a sober person.
Yeah.
And I don't go around thinking often that that guy needs to get sober. It's not really within my right to do. That said, there are definitely people that I come across where I'm like, that guy's life, from my point of view, looks unmanageable to me. And he would probably benefit by not doing drugs, you know? But it's very hard to tell somebody that. And in such a way as, I mean, it's hard to get a person to hear you or to understand or to want what you want for them. And so the only thing I hope to say is, like, if somebody has lost weight and regained weight a number of times, my plea is like, give yourself a playground, or a set the game up so that you can win,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's going to require a lot more playing time. Or do you know what I mean? That's the
Yeah.
part where I get like, what was why did it take me so long to do this? Well, that's because I just needed it immediately. I
Yeah.
really did. I needed to have a radical change immediately. But the problem is that none of that lasted. That those immediate, I'm sure there are some people that got rich on get rich quick schemes, right? That's why we all, or that's why they can sell like, marketing strategy videos, or like, read my book, The 5 Steps to Becoming a Billionaire. But there's only so many people who are billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just don't think that that is going to work for everyone. But if you took all the people who want to lose weight, I'm sure we all share in common the feeling that like we wish it could happen overnight. We wish it could happen overnight and then forget that we ever had that problem to deal with. I
Mm-hmm.
desperately wanted every time I lost weight to pretend I was never overweight, to not think about it. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
too was part of the problem, because it's like, no, but I was, but that's part of who I am for my
Mm-hmm.
entire life. That's created who I am today. So I can't deny that. I can't pretend it didn't happen, because the minute I start living in this fantasy world, it all just comes back. It's all
Yeah.
part of the make believe. And um, getting okay with like, I am who I am. The path I'm on hopefully is a very, very long one, and it's going to require work every single day. And there's no magic bullet, and it's all kind of hard work. And, I need to set the stage for success. And that means nothing's immediate. It all takes a long time. And the slow kind of snail's pace has proven more successful to me than like change one thing, and that's all you have to do, and you don't have to think about anything else.
Yeah. And did you have, was it like a light bulb moment where you said to yourself, I have to do it differently? Or was it, I know that you talked in the past about reading, was it Mike Israetel's book about, that, like, what was it that like made you, I don't want to say snap out of it, but to make that shift from immediately, I got to lose it all right now, blah, 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 just the yo-yo dieting, all the things that I completely understand. What made you switch from that to this point of view that you have had for these years that has obviously proven to be so successful?
Yeah, I was doing like my 30th round of keto, and had never gotten to a place on keto where I was super happy. But the thing that kept me coming back to keto was the amount of weight loss I lose immediately. I could lose 10 pounds in the first week. So I know it's working, right? I know
Mm-hmm.
that's something. And 10 pounds in a week, you just feel like, okay, I can do this forever because I lost 10 pounds in the first week. But then the number on the scale slows down and you're kind of chasing it. And I'd get to a point where I'd just plateau and I wasn't losing weight anymore. And I'm like, I haven't fucking eaten a carb. I would eat like 2 cups of broccoli a day, and that's it. I wasn't even eating because I would look and it'd go like, oh, it has a gram of carbohydrates per serving. I can't eat that. And I'm not losing weight. And it's been a month and I'm still not losing weight. And I'm nowhere near a healthy weight or the weight I want to be. And I'm just stalled. No
Mm-hmm.
weight loss. And then I'm going like, well, I know if I continue to do this and I'm just hungry all the time, I'll lose weight. And so I just am now doing a bastardized version of calorie restriction with keto, and then weight loss starts again. But I'm still not getting to where I want to be because I'm not actually figuring out how much I'm eating every day. I'm just like, okay, instead of eating 3 chicken thighs at lunch and my little handful of broccoli, I'm going to eat 2 chicken thighs, and I'm not going to put olive oil on them or anything like that, or butter on my broccoli, right? And then weight loss starts. But then I'm getting lightheaded and miserable, and the weight loss still stalls after a while, and I'm still not where I want to be, and it's just dragging on forever and ever. And I did watch Mike Israetel's he did a TED talk or a TEDx talk or something on nutrition and weight loss, and I was like, is this guy lying? He doesn't know me. I'm allergic to carbohydrates. But I had done this for so long that I was like, I'll try this other way. And I tried his way, and come to find out, I'm losing 2 pounds a week, and it's not stopping, right? And then I read his book, and it's like, no, you also need to take a diet break. And what does a diet break mean? And it was while I was doing that I realized, oh, fuck. If I don't eat like this forever, I'm now having carbs and fat and protein. I'm now having anything I want, right? There's no types of foods that are being restricted. If I don't do that when I'm done with my diet, I'm going to gain the weight back. So I started treating the diet breaks as, when I'm finally at a weight that I'm happy with, this is the way I'm going to live my life forever. That was an aha moment, right? Because my idea was I just diet to the point where I'm happy with myself, and then I don't have to diet anymore. But that never worked.
Right.
It never worked. And I realized that after the diet was actually more work than the diet. I'm telling you, maintenance was harder work than the diet, because there was almost something I could get off on, punishing myself with restricting food. Like, I'm bad. I should be hungry. I should be miserable, right? And then I'm on maintenance, and it's like, it's not punishment because I'm not hungry, but I'm not eating whatever I want. So it's this weird in between of feeling okay, but restricting my food, not eating fast food, not, you know what I mean? It was weird, and it was very difficult to do. And I wasn't able to get that little sense of masochism of I'm a piece of shit and I should be punishing myself when I restrict food. Now it's just restricting food because I never really knew how much I could eat every day and not gain weight. I just didn't know. I didn't know what that meant. And so I just had to kind of learn that. And it took a long time to learn. I don't count calories today at all, ever. Mm-hmm. And I'm not gaining weight. I haven't gained weight in a long time. And I'm not measuring anything. But for a year, I did. I measured everything. And I would go what does a breast of chicken, what does a serving for me look like? And I'd weigh it, and I'd look at it, and I'd eat it. And what does it feel how do I feel when I'm eating it? Okay, I've eaten my meal. I'm not hungry. It's not giving me all the same kind of feeling that a trip through a drive-through would give me. There's no euphoria associated with it, but I'm no longer hungry. I feel good. I have energy. And okay, this is how I have to live. And it was kind of required learning. So there wasn't a single aha moment. It was just kind of stumbling into it. And then, all right, I've done maintenance now for 3 months. I can diet again. I'm ready to diet again. I had to, the biggest thing was talking myself through the desperation for it to all happen right now.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And I still if I woke up tomorrow and I was twice as heavy as I am now, I would want to unzip my flesh and crawl outside of myself. And I would need it to happen right now. And gaining weight, once you've lost weight, you kind of blink and go fuck, I've gained 40 pounds. How did that happen? I didn't even, I just wasn't paying attention, and none of my clothes fit,
Yep.
and you come to like realize your pants don't fit, not when they've just gotten a little tighter, when you need to go buy new pants because they literally don't fit anymore. And it's like, that can't happen overnight. But why didn't I notice that the first time I sat down and they were a little bit snug? You know what I mean? Like, I remember sitting down and the inseam pushing back on my balls so bad it hurt. Like it like felt like I was getting kicked in the nuts, and going like, what is happening? And like, I'd put on 50 pounds. And now I literally have to go buy new clothes because my clothes don't fit. And these were the clothes that I bought as like a reward for having lost weight. Like, it's all so fucked. I remember having 3 different sets of clothes in my closet and going in between them. Like, oh, thank God I have these skinny clothes because I've been starving myself for the last 6 months. And now I can wear this. And then 4 months later, it's like, now I'm in the in-between. And like, oh, I should start dieting again. And then you blink again and it's like, no, I'm in my full on fat clothes again that I was never going to wear again, that I wish I'd thrown away, because if I'd thrown them away, I certainly wouldn't have gained this weight. But no, that's not true, because every time I did throw them away, I just had to go out and buy more.
Yep. Oh God, I know that so well. So well. I'm like in a point now where I've talked about it a bunch. I did, Manjaro and for 10 months and so on and so forth. And so like, I am trying to be like, trying not to obsess on the number on the scale, but at the same time weigh myself enough that I'm like aware, but like, yeah, just how do my clothes fit? And there's that thing of like, well, it's only a couple pounds up. Right. And so that's fine. Like, it's going to fluctuate, like these conversations that you can have with yourself. And then all of a sudden you look and I haven't gotten to that place. I'm being really aware, and just like every day managing what I'm doing. But I know from past experience, like, yeah, how fast 40, 50 pounds, or in my case, 20, 30, whatever, or 40, where you just all of a sudden are like, oh, I'm back to what I have to start all over again. So, yeah, it's like, I know we joke about that term mindfulness, but man, it's that. It's like, or awareness, let's say awareness, and then like action from the awareness, because you can be unaware or you can be aware. And if you're aware, you can also be like, yep, okay, gain some, and you can still not do anything about it, so it's something. So question then.
It has to be a practice. You think about like these non-dualist people, or people who are into like meditation or like the Eastern philosophy type things. You meditate and maybe feel better. You're not done. That's not it. You don't just end off and go, well, I did that, I don't ever have to do that again. It's a practice. It is gotta be. And then maybe it becomes innate. And then maybe you just wake up and find yourself meditating and you're like, hey, I didn't even have to remind myself to do that thing. That's an example of it. Brushing your teeth. I don't have to remind myself. I don't ever forget to brush my teeth. Maybe some people do. And God, I feel bad for anyone you have to kiss, but like, maybe there are people that still have to remind themselves to brush their teeth. But I highly doubt that that's most adults. I would suspect this, mostly because this is my experience, that I learned to do that behavior, and then I just continued to do that behavior. And now that is a part of my daily life. I wake up, I go to the bathroom, I brush my teeth. There's no, it's not like I'm brushing my teeth because if I don't, I'm going to tear my bladder. Like that's why I go to the bathroom, right? This is just my practice. Because I want to go speak to people and I don't want to have horrible breath blowing at them, and I want to preserve the life of my teeth and not have to go to get them drilled up sooner than later. There's like lots of reasons why I brush my teeth. And I don't have to think about that anymore. I've been this weight for 6 years and I still have to think about some stuff and I still have to talk myself through some stuff, but it's gotten so much easier than the first year of doing maintenance. The first year of doing maintenance was real work. And I think a lot of the problem with the diets that are being shilled out there are that they're telling you that you don't have to do real work, that it is just easy, that it is just as simple as get rid of gluten and all your troubles will be solved, right? Or, stop eating folates or whatever the big thing is now. Lectins, folates, right? Don't eat animals, only eat animals, don't eat plants. Like I tried versions of those things, and they didn't work, but all of that was just an effort to get out of doing the kind of work that it actually required me to do, that it still requires me to do. And I was not setting the playing field in such a way that I could be successful.
Mm-hmm. And do you ever take a minute to go, like, or I guess for lack of a better word, do you ever take a minute to kind of validate yourself for how far you've come? And like, is the action of doing that also sort of a reinforcement of what your, of these, like things that are now habit or second nature, more second nature?
Yeah. I don't want to, there's two parts to this. There's the fear because I can remember congratulating myself for having stayed clean for a week with 40s from the liquor store, which then was like, once I got the 40s in me, it was like, now once you're a little drunk, then it's like, well, maybe I could do a little coke, and then it's like, well, now I need to take something to sleep, and then it's like the next day it's back on opiates. Because I was patting myself on the back for the success of having a week sober, right? I can remember that. I can remember being a kid and my mom taking me to the drive-through because I'd been successful on a diet after a week. I can remember that. I can remember going, I've been so good, I'm going to eat pizza tonight because I've been so good. So I am slightly weary of patting myself too vigorously on the back. But sure. I can also say, like, holy fuck, I have maintained my weight for 6 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not miserable every day. I'm not starving. I'm not lightheaded. I'm not constantly thinking about food at all times. That's huge. Now, I don't congratulate myself with pizza, but maybe I congratulate myself with a walk outside because walking's not such a chore that it used to be. You know what I mean? It's not my favorite thing to do. I still would rather sit and watch TV and eat pizza than go for a walk. But maybe that's the way I celebrate this success, if we call it success. You know what I mean? Maybe totally. I go do a little more cardio at the gym. Maybe I go to the grocery store and buy healthy food and feel proud that that's the activity I've chosen to do.
Right.
So yeah, there's two sides to that, like acknowledging the success for myself, because so many times that acknowledgement came with a complete regression.
Yeah, it's tricky.
It's tricky. It's tricky. And I think these new peptides, like the one you took, could be super, super, they could change the literal shape of America. But people come off them. There's going to be a reckoning. There's going to be, it's going to require, that's when you're going to have to do some work. The work is not going to be as easy maybe as it was while you were taking them,
Well, 1,000%. It's yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now. It's like
Yeah.
an everyday, just because by the nature of them and what they do in your body, like, your hunger is curbed. Aside from just like, I do think I've been a little more one of my goals in doing it, not to divert to this myself, is just that like one of my goals during it was, okay, I want to, create healthy habits, right? Like, and have this thing be a tool so that I could sort of turn off the cravings and the overeating and the whatever, to develop those habits and sort of get some time and stick to them. And so I do think I've luckily or so far been able to, I'm keeping in the habit of not eating bullshit, for lack of a better word. You know what I mean? I don't. Not all the time. Of course, sometimes I, go out to dinner, have some bread, this, that, whatever. But I'm really trying to not do that. Like I don't keep anything in my house that's not good for me. But the hunger is for sure noticeably increased. And it's been now, I don't know how long I've been off of it. I can't keep track anymore. Is it, a month or two, or I literally don't remember. So I am back to like not managing hunger, because if you eat the right things, if I eat the right things, then I'm not worried about it. It's fine. Like to your point, as you've said many times, how much overeating and you do have chicken and rice and stuff. Right. But anyway, all of that is to say that this is like this is, definitely more challenging work than when I was on it. But it's still, for me anyway, better than past things and past diets and like crash diets and crazy things. But yeah, it's work. I'm like every day going, cool, what am I going to eat today? And planning it out seems to be super helpful, and, and just having the right things around. But it's, yeah, I've put on a few, like not a lot, 5 more pounds or something. Right. But I'm okay with it. And I'm just paying attention to my clothes and, how I feel and how I look in them and whatever. But yeah, it's that the work is now. Like the work is now, and it's every day, and it's forever.
Yeah. Another aspect of it is like 5 pounds. Okay. And we have to stay within the realm of what is real and what's going to send us in a direction. And 5 pounds could send me in a direction, of like scrambling. But I was listening to a buddy on a podcast recently who had lost a lot of weight, and he was saying that his weight fluctuates, and that, if he was going to have a bread day, maybe he was going to get super bloated, and you'd see that on the scale. And all I'd want to point out is, like, when you're dieting, if part of what you're restricting is carbohydrates, which for me it always was, that was one of the aspects that I would restrict, especially even in the most late, like the last real diet I did was for a movie. And I wanted to just get as lean as possible for this movie and lose a few pounds of fat. And it wasn't weight that I was like, now I'm at a point where I got to hold on to this weight loss. No, I know after the movie that weight is going to come back and I'm going to get back to my maintenance level. Mm-hmm. But when you're restricting total calories, if carbohydrates is one of those, you store your carbohydrates in your muscles as energy. It's not water under the skin, like if you eat a bunch of sodium. And so like you haven't put on fat. You're not putting on 5 pounds of fat in a couple of days or even in a day. That's water in your muscles. You're actually making your muscles bigger. And so like, that's something I've gotten to the point where it's like, if I didn't overeat yesterday, but I ate a bunch more carbohydrates, I'm going to see that on the scale. And that's not necessarily even a bad thing. You know what I mean? My muscles are more full. I don't know when you're restricting, and if part of what you're restricting is carbohydrates, when you increase that a little bit, you might see a bump on the scale. So there's a lot to go into it, even like the way I think about it. But that said, every time I get on the scale, every time I'm disappointed when the scale isn't at a lower number. And I'm not trying to get it to, in my life, to be a lower number. So why should it be? You know what I mean? There's some cognitive dissonance there.
Totally. Totally. I know my scale ran out of batteries, and I said to my husband, like, "Hey, I looked. I'm like, do we have any of these? Blah blah blah." He goes, "Yeah. Why do you need this thing though? Like, you have like why?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know, because there was this thought of like, I'm just not going to weigh myself, but I know." I need to, but it's like a balance of how often do you do it? And, for some people, weighing themselves every single day, no matter what the number says, is great. And they don't, and they need that. And some people are good at once a week. I'm trying to find the balance of it. I just don't want to fall back to like, oh no, I didn't weigh myself for 2 weeks and now I've gained 10 pounds, so it's funny. But yeah, he was like, can we just get rid of this? And I was
No,
like,
there's
no.
all kinds of weird adjustments I make. I travel a lot and I go, and very rarely is there a scale in my hotel room. I know I'm in a really nice hotel when there is a scale in the bathroom, and that's occasionally. And then I'm like, great, I'm getting on the scale every day that I'm here. And then sometimes there's a scale in the gym, and then I go to the gym and I'm like, well, now I have my shoes on and I am fully dressed and I've had my protein shake and a liter of water, and all that is going to produce a higher number. So get set, because it's going to be higher than normal. And then there's other times where there's no scale for a week. And I always, always, always am convinced that I'm going to have gained 10 pounds when I get back from a week with no scale. And, in the last year, that just hasn't been true. There have been times where that's been true, and then the weight comes right off. But like, there will be times where I don't weigh myself. But it took me a long time to reshape the way I eat. And that took a lot of work. And I just don't, I think I've had to set the playing field in such a way that I can be successful. And that isn't always the easiest thing to do, because I tended to want results immediately.
Yeah. 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 Got it. Get it. Okay. Well, Ethan Suplee, thank you. Thank you for your thoughts on stress and how you got to where you are and the habits that we need to keep in. I appreciate it. And I know everyone else will too. So thank you for this convo.
Thank you, Paige. Talk to you soon.
Yes.